Some breaking news out of Florida tonight. Police say 3 people are dead after a series of shootings at the same place earlier today. It all started this morning when investigators say a 19-year-old gunman allegedly shot and killed a woman in Pine Hills. Later, as news crews showed up to cover that tragedy, a gunman walked up to the news van and opened fire. 2 reporters covering the scene were also shot. Other reporters rushed in to help them. Police say it all happened by the same shooter. Later, the shooter allegedly shot a mother and her 9-year-old daughter on that same street. Right now, the mom is in critical condition. Her daughter has died. Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Dana Griffith. Dana, these 2 shootings were on the same street today. What do we know about how everyone's doing?
Well, as you mentioned, 3 of the 5 shooting victims have died, Gotti. Now, the first shooting happened this morning. A 20-year-old woman was shot and killed hours later, according to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. A Spectrum News crew, reporter and photographer covering that homicide were also shot. Now, investigators say the gunman then went to a home and shot a mother and her 9-year-old. The reporter and child have both died this afternoon. The child's mother and the news photographer remain in critical condition. Gotti?
Now, the suspect has already been charged with murder in the first shooting. The sheriff just said that he expects more charges for the second shooting. What do we know about who this shooter is?
So investigators have identified him as 19-year-old Keith Melvin Moses. They say he knew the 20-year-old woman killed this morning, but it's unclear why the news crew or the mom and child were targeted. You can see the suspect, his booking photo is currently on your screen. Now, the Orange County Sheriff's Office says that Moses has been detained, and as you mentioned, they expect to charge him with murder, at least with the 20-year-old who was killed this morning and that news reporter. Gotti?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the victims today? What do we know about them?
So the mother and the news photographer are still listed in critical condition. I was actually just listening in to a local reporter outside the hospital. She was emotional, talking about how all of the local media there is coming together to mourn this loss. She mentioned that the reporter has a fiance who showed up to the hospital. And she also mentioned, Gotti, that this is the worst fear for journalists, to be killed while doing their job. So obviously a very emotional scene, you know, when you're in the field, you cover stories with other journalists, regardless if you're from the same station or not. There is this sort of camaraderie. So to know that someone was killed simply doing their job is just heartbreaking. And also a 9-year-old child and a 20-year-old mother among the victims in this series of shootings. Gotti?
Just seems like an unspeakable tragedy on top of an unspeakable tragedy on top of yet another tragedy. Dana, thanks so much.